Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something, well, pretty fundamental, I think. Something you probably feel maybe every week. It's that experience of being perfectly rational, totally organized, clear path forward. And yet, there's this deep feeling inside, like an absence of aliveness, a quiet dissatisfaction that logic just doesn't fix. Maybe picture this. You're just standing somewhere, the kitchen maybe, or staring at your screen, or just sitting in your car and you're not actually hungry, you don't really have a plan right then, but your body somehow brought you there, almost like the silence inside got too loud. Or you just needed to move, or stop moving. Logic told you what you should be doing, but your body just kind of paused.
Yeah, and what we're really diving into there is the nature of that split, that internal division. It's not usually about making the wrong choice, externally speaking. I mean, you, the listener, you're clearly smart, responsible. You've probably used your mind brilliantly to figure out the best path. The real issue, the core of it, is that the choice often gets made without your full embodied self being present. Like the mind's driving the car, absolutely, but it left your intuition, that inner navigator, back at the curb, sort of whispering, wait, hang on, you're sure this is the way home? And we really need to look at the cost of that, of overriding that internal compass again and again. So the mission for this deep dive really is to notice and maybe fully acknowledge the price we pay for burying what we're afraid to feel, that quiet little hum behind your ribs, or that knot that shows up in your stomach, that weight in your chest. That's not nothing. That's often the physical echo of the knowing we pushed aside.
Okay, so let's talk about this, the CEO dynamic you mentioned, the mind stepping up. It sounds like early on, the mind looks around and sees the world as, well, complex, maybe dangerous, uncertain, definitely. So it appoints itself the efficient CEO of your inner world. Makes sense. It starts building walls, making lists, calculating all the risks. And this isn't like a bad thing initially. It was adaptive, right? A survival strategy. It learned probably a long time ago that feelings can feel messy, maybe even dangerous, that uncertainty feels unsafe. So it kind of locked things down, grabbed the steering wheel to make sure you survived.
Exactly. And when the mind took on that really comprehensive CEO role, that inner whisper, our deep felt sense of knowing, it got demoted, effectively sent down to the basement, metaphorically speaking, told, look, we don't do things that way anymore. Not now, not here, not like this. The whole system optimized for control, for survival, which meant, expression, spontaneity, they kind of got filed away, put on hold.
And oh, that feeling of self-betrayal, if you really listen, you can probably remember it. Overriding that whisper. Maybe a specific time your intuition screamed, don't send that email, or seriously, don't say yes to that invitation, you're wiped out.
Wow.
But you did it anyway, because you had to be professional or practical or just, good. And the result wasn't relief, was it? It was that cold, hollow feeling afterwards, feeling emptier somehow, more distant, because you picked the calculation over your body's truth. That's the fallout, isn't it?
That's it, precisely. And it raises such a critical point about what intuition is. We often dismiss it as irrational, like the opposite of logic. But what's really interesting here is reframing it as pre-rational. When we say irrational, we mean it doesn't fit on a spreadsheet, right? It doesn't follow that A plus B = C logic.
Yeah.
But calling it pre-rational, that suggests it's the body's own ancient, super fast processing system, working before the thinking mind even logs on.
Wait, hang on. So you're saying that gut feeling I had, or that physical clench before a big meeting, that isn't just random noise or anxiety. It's literally like the sum total of all my past experiences, joy, fear, longing, grief, all stored up, like a massive cellular supercomputer running predictions. Wow.
That's powerful.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It is powerful. It's stored right there in your cells, in your nervous system. And it doesn't talk in spreadsheets or logical arguments, does it? It communicates through physical sensation.
Right.
Shivers, pauses, the way your breath catches, maybe your stomach drops or clenches. This isn't noise to be ignored. It's incredibly valuable data, comprehensive data, just delivered in the body's own language.
Okay, so here's the consequence then. If that physical data, that instinct starts to rise up, and you immediately shut it down with, nope, don't have time for this feeling, you don't actually make it disappear. That energy, it doesn't just vanish into thin air.
Yeah.
You actually make it linger.
Exactly, it lingers. And this lingering feeling, this is where Gestalt awareness comes in. It's often called unfinished business. It becomes like an open loop in your system, a constant background hum of tension, a ghost almost, that subtly haunts your future choices. And this explains so perfectly why you can have, on paper, the perfect job, the perfect life. Everything looks right, and still feel this fundamental, deep-seated sense that something's missing, the missing piece. It's often the full, embodied feeling you that got sidelined way back when that decision was made.
our natural organism. It wants to complete things. There's this thing called the cycle of experience. We sense something. Then we become aware of it. We mobilize energy to meet that awareness. We act or make contact somehow, and then ideally we rest and integrate what happened. And this is key, especially for those of us who learned early on we had to be good or strong or in control. We become absolute masters of interruption. We stop the cycle right at awareness. The second the feeling pops up, we override it with logic. Or we take that mobilized energy, which really wanted emotional expression, and we channel it into something else, something productive, like work or worry or planning.
Right. Okay. So if the mind is juggling all that complexity and the feeling gets interrupted, basic physics, right? Energy doesn't just disappear. Where does it go? It has to convert. And we see that conversion playing out in really practical, sometimes debilitating ways, don't we? Like that constant tension that just builds and builds in your jaw, or your shoulders feeling like rocks, or that frantic, almost desperate need to tick things off a ridiculously long to-do list, just for a moment of feeling in control, collapsing into just utter exhaustion Friday night because your body's been holding so much all week. Or, and this one hurts, it leaks out, right? As impatience or sharp irritability towards the people you love most, the ones asking for your actual presence. That whole cascade, that's the body trying, desperately, to process what got stuck.
It absolutely is. And if you connect that suppression, that holding, to the bigger picture, it shines a light on why we sometimes react so strongly to other people's emotions. When someone else seems too emotional or too much or just being dramatic, often that's our own unintegrated intuition, that messy feeling part of ourselves we don't allow, projected onto them, and then judged really harshly because we disowned that part in ourselves. And the terror underneath is often the same, that deep fear that if we actually let ourselves feel it, the dam might break.
Okay, so the mind is the brilliant protector, maybe working overtime now. The system's running on these loops of unfinished business. So the starting point isn't trying to fix it or analyze it or even understand why the defense is there. The invitation here, it sounds like, is simpler, but maybe harder. Just shifting to radical awareness. The goal is becoming, what was the word? A phenomenologist of your own experience. Hold on though. Phenomenologist, that sounds kind of academic. For people listening, how does that actually translate into something you can do? Isn't there a risk the mind just grabs awareness and makes it another item on the to-do list? Okay, be aware now. How do we stop that?
That's such an important question because yes, the mind absolutely loves to intellectualize everything, even awareness. But a phenomenologist in this context simply observes what is present right now, without interpreting it, without judging it, and crucially, without needing to change it immediately. It translates into action by asking very simply, where do I feel the hesitation or the tension or the feeling in my body right now? Is it burning in your chest? A tightness in your throat? A kind of hollowness in your stomach? The practice is just to let the sensation be there, as a raw sensation, not a story you tell about it. That feeling isn't weakness, it's your pre-rational data just trying to speak its truth.
Okay, that simplicity, that feels key. It brings us right to the core practice then. Just acknowledging the split exists. We have to name the truth of it. We can't heal what we won't even name right. Maybe say it out loud or just quietly to yourself. Okay, I am making choices without my full self present. Or maybe more honestly, wow, I'm brilliant at thinking and I'm also terrified of feeling. That acknowledgement, that's the first step towards wholeness. Because you stop pretending something isn't there and you can finally meet it.
Yes, and right in that moment of acknowledgement, of truth-telling, that's when we often encounter our defenses, those faithful guardians, they were absolutely essential for keeping us safe back when things were tough. We had to recognize how they show up now, like rationalizing, I'm just tired, it's not really a feeling, or distraction. Grabbing the phone, diving into work, eating something, minimizing, it's not a big deal, judging yourself, this is ridiculous, I shouldn't feel this. But we have to honor that these were life-preserving strategies, truly. But we can also gently inform them, okay, the goal now isn't just survival anymore, the goal is actually living.
So let's bring in something really practical, a small tool right now. And it sounds like it's simply about permission. Maybe focusing on your breath for a second. Breathing in permission. Permission to feel the fear, maybe permission to be uncertain, permission to let that intuition have a voice, even a quiet one, and then breathing out that deep ingrained need to control everything.
The core.
Or to be right, to have the logical answer. And integration, it sounds like, doesn't start with some huge revelation. It starts with a softening. Like maybe you notice your shoulders drop just half an inch, or your jaw, which holds so much tension, finally softens a little.
That's softening, that's the foundation.
Yeah.
That's what's required for the ultimate goal here, which is really collaboration. Your intuition isn't asking your mind to just abandon ship, to give up its role as the brilliant organizer. It's asking the mind to include it, to bring it on board as a co-pilot. Mind and intuition, they aren't enemies. They're just two different equally essential languages of the same soul, finally ready, maybe, to start talking to each other.
And when they do start that dialogue, wow, the whole quality of your life, your choices, it must change. The conversation becomes more honest. The mind might say, okay, here's the plan. It's 95% safe. And the intuition might whisper back, okay, but does that 5% risk involve a truth that feels essential? Is it true enough to live with?
Right. Or the mind says, here's the risk we're trying to avoid. And the intuition murmurs, and what's the hidden cost of not taking that leap? What stays asleep if we don't?
Yeah. Or mind, here's what makes perfect logical sense. And intuition just sighs, okay, but what makes you actually come alive?
Exactly. And this internal dialogue, this is where real wholeness starts to emerge. It isn't always harmony, It's not always comfortable or neat. It's about honesty. It means allowing all the parts, the logical and the lyrical, the cautious parts and the courageous parts, to actually have a seat at the table. They don't have to agree right away. They just need to be heard, honored as valid data points in the system.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It sounds like the transformation doesn't happen in these huge, dramatic breakthroughs necessarily. It happens in the small, constant, gentle returns. Every single time you notice, oh, there I go again, splitting myself off. You're not failing. You're actually succeeding. You're remembering, literally putting the members back together. You're choosing to return home to yourself, gently, again and again. So just to bring this full circle, you are not broken for feeling this internal split. Not at all. In fact, there's something kind of sacred in just noticing it. In holding that tension, the work isn't about fixing yourself or forcing an answer. It's more about being with the tension, the not knowing, allowing that messy, magnificent whole self to slowly surface.
So maybe the invitation is this. The very next time you feel that familiar tug of war between your mind and your body, that quiet hum or that heaviness or that resistance, just pause for one single breath and ask yourself with real, genuine curiosity, what is live in me right now?
Just let whatever answer wants to rise up, let it come from your body, your belly, your chest, your bones. It might be a single word like longing, or maybe a color like gray, a sensation, maybe pressure, or simply the word no. Whatever it is, just let it be there. Without needing to translate it or explain it or rush in to fix it, that simple, courageous act of listening. That's the beginning. That's choosing yourself, finally, fully, again and again.